my name is Maddie and today we will be making this crochet vest. I think it's so beautiful, and because we're going to use Tunisian crochet, it kind of looks knitted, but it is actually crochet, which I think is really cool. And if you're entirely new to Tunisian crochet, then I think this is a really good first project. It's relatively simple once you get into it. So I really hope you enjoy it. So before we begin, I just want to show you the type of crochet hook we'll be using. It is a Tunisian crochet hook, which in this case is just a normal crochet hook attached to a wire. I think the one I have is 60 centimeters, but you could probably get by using maybe a 40 centimeter wire. And then the size of the needle is a 5 millimeter needle. And then the yarn we'll be using, it is this super soft lacy type yarn. It is a bit difficult to work with because the threads do kind of stick together sometimes, but it is a lovely mix of mohair, acrylic and nylon, which I think gives a really beautiful result. So the first thing we're going to do is to create a chain, and the length of the chain is going to be the length or the height of the waistband. And you do that by going under the yarn and then pulling it through the loop, and under the yarn and through the loop. So I decided to do 10 stitches. I think that's the length that I thought would look the best, but you can definitely add more or fewer depending on what you want. So just remember to add one extra stitch at the end. So as I said, I did 10, but then I added one more, so 11. So if you decide to do 12, add one more and do 13. So I am almost at the end here. Few more stitches, so that's 10. I think that's about 4 centimeters. And then, as I mentioned, just adding one more at the end. So we have the starting chain, and now what we're going to do is that we're going to make one single crochet into each of those stitches. And it can be a bit difficult to find the right one. You're not going to go into that first one, so go into that second one. And especially with this yarn, it is a bit difficult to see, but there it is. So you take your hook, you go into that stitch, and then you grab the yarn and you pull it through, and then you grab the yarn again, and then you pull it through both of those loops on your hook. And then you go into the next one, and you basically do the same. You grab the yarn, you pull it through, and then you grab the yarn again and pull it through both. So that is what you're going to do all the way across. So here we are at the end. We have one stitch left to do. I think it's always kind of easy to miss the last one, maybe not in the beginning, but after a while. So you do that last stitch, and then you should have something that looks like this. Then there's one more thing to do, which you're gonna have to do at the end of every single row, and that is to chain one. And then you simply turn your work, and now we're going to do almost the same. The difference is that we're only going to work into the back loop of each stitch. So you don't go under both, you only go into the back loop. You have all of these small V's almost at the top, and you go sort of into the back one. But you do continue doing single crochets the exact same way. The only difference is that you only go into the back loop. So you go under the back loop, and then under the yarn and pull through, and then under the yarn and pull through both. And that is basically what you're going to be doing for a while. We for the size that I made, which is I think something in between a small and a medium, I made 66 rows, and that is including the first chain and the first row of single crochets. So the chain is row 1, the first row single crochets is row 2, and then the one we're doing now is the third row, and it's 66 in total, but feel free to add more if you want a bigger size. I think if you're going for like a medium, maybe do 70. If you're going for a large, maybe do 76, something like that. Just try to keep it on like even numbers. So we are getting closer to the end, and as I mentioned, that last stitch can be a bit tricky. It's more difficult with this type of yarn, definitely. If you're using just wool or normal acrylic, it's going to be a lot easier. But you find that last loop, back loop, and then you pull through the yarn. And then, as I mentioned, there is one more thing to do, and that is, of course, to chain 1. And then turn the work. And yeah, this is basically it. You continue working always through the back loop, and you go until you have the amount of rows you want. And I will see you back when you are done. So here we have my 66 rows all done. This is the ribbing or the waistband of the sweater, the vest, sorry. And now we're going to start doing Tunisian crochet, the knit stitch, and that is why I have attached the wire to my hook. So what we're going to start doing is we're going to start working into those small spaces or holes, if you will, whatever you want to call them. They are sort of between the rows. There should be one hole or space per row. So we're going to start working into them. We're going to go into that first one, and then we're gonna grab the yarn and pull it through, and then we're gonna keep the loop on the hook, and then we're gonna go into that next space, grab the yarn, pull it through, and keep the loop on the hook. And you're gonna continue doing this all across to the other side. So whatever amount of rows you did for the ribbing, that's the amount of loops you want on your hook when you reach the other side. So in my case, I want 66 loops on my hook at the end. So yeah, just continue doing that all the way across, and I will see you when you get to that point. So I have done almost all of my knit stitches. I am on number 64, I think. Also, always good to just count the amount of loops you actually have on your hook. Just be sure that you are in fact on the right track. So I have 64. I'm doing my 65th knit stitch, and then my last one, the 66th knit stitch. And that is how you do Tunisian crochet. So the next thing we're going to do now is that we're going to work our way back again. And we're not going to turn the work around. We're just going to keep it with the same side against us at all times. So I like to smush or sort of push my yarn together. I think it's easier that way. And then you go under the yarn, and then you pull through that first loop. So just through that first loop, and then you go under the yarn again, but you pull through 2 loops this time, and under the yarn and pull through 2 loops, and under the yarn again and pull through 2 loops. So you're gonna continue going under the yarn and pulling through 2 loops at a time. It's just that first one where you only pull it through the first loop. So you continue doing that all the way down until you have just 1 loop left on your hook, and I will see you when you get there. So at this point I have almost done my whole return pass. I have a few loops left to go through, so I just continue going under the yarn and pulling it through 2 loops at a time until I have 1 loop left on my hook. So 1 more, and there we go. This is what we want, 1 loop left on your hook. So what we have done so far is that we have done 1 row of Tunisian knit stitch and then 1 return pass. And from now on, those 2 together is going to be called a set. So when I say do 10 sets, I mean going all the way to the left and all the way back to the right. That is 1 set. So we're gonna do our next set of the knit stitches, and it's almost the same as the last one, but a bit different. As you can see, now we have this sort of loops, if that's what you want to call it, and you want to go sort of into that loop, not the first one. We're gonna do the second one because we already have 1 loop on the hook. So you go into that second loop and you want the hook to go sort of behind the vertical line in the front, but you don't want it to go back or like behind the back one. I think it's a bit easier to see on this next one. As you can see, you have this sort of loop and you want to go sort of inside it, so behind the front line but not behind the back line. So you push your hook through it and you grab the yarn and then pull it through. And as last time, you keep all the loops on your hook. We don't want to lose any of those. So you just continue doing this all the way across, keeping the loops on your hook. Once you get into this, you will see that it goes quite quickly. I think this style of crocheting is both faster and more fun than normal crochet. I do a lot of normal crochet as well, but kind of depending on the look I want. For this particular vest, I really wanted it to look knitted, which is why I decided to do the Tunisian crochet. So this is the second set of the knit stitch, and we want to keep going until we have 36 sets in total. So that is just a reminder that 1 set is going all the way to the left with the knit stitches and the return pass. So that is 1 set. And yeah, you just continue going forward. I think even though we're using, or at least I am using 2 yarns at the same time, it actually works out because they merge together almost. If you're using 2 yarns of a different type, say acrylic, they are not going to merge together the same way, so that might be a bit more difficult. But I guess the easiest way to do this would be to use, instead of 2 very thin lace yarns, you can use 1 that is a bit more thicker. But I do think this gives a really beautiful result. So if you want the exact same look that I had for my vest, I definitely recommend doing it this way. So we are just continuing working. Also, if you want to skip now until you have the 36 sets, you can definitely do that. I have all the timings down in the description. At this point, I am just babbling, I guess. But yeah, we are almost at the end. You can see it's getting closer and closer, and as I mentioned, make sure that you always, when you get to the end, you always have the same amount of loops on your hook. It is quite easy to suddenly miss one, and you don't want to figure that out once you are way past it. So I almost always, at least in the beginning, when I get to the end, I always count all my loops, which is a bit boring. I will agree to that, but yeah, just good to be sure that you have the correct amount of loops. We are getting real close to the end, and the last stitch is gonna be a bit more difficult. You will see very soon, but once you get it, you get it. So that is the 64th knit stitch. So we're gonna grab the yarn and pull it through, and then we're gonna do the last one, the 66th. So when you get to the end, you wanna do it a bit differently. You want to go, sorry, if you turn the work a bit towards you, you want to go behind both of those two lines. So you sort of get 2 loops on your hooks, and then you want to grab the yarn. You can see you have sort of 2 loops there on your hook, and you want to grab the yarn, and then you want to go through both of those. So again, just count and make sure that you have the correct amount of loops by now. And we're going to do the return pass. So the first time you grab the yarn, but you only go through 1 loop, and then the second time you go through 2 loops, and then you continue going through 2 loops all the way to the end. So I think I'm gonna let you guys work on your own now, and I will see you back when you have 36 sets of knit stitch. So these are my 36 sets of knit stitches, and it is a bit difficult to count them in the front, but if you turn it around, you can sort of see these lines quite easily, and you want 36 of those lines if you chose to do the same sizing as I did. So I made this sketch. So what we have done so far is that we have worked our way up to the area where the arms, or the room for the arms, are supposed to start. So that means that we are gonna have to do a bit of reduction on each side. We wanted to go a bit in on each side, so I want to show you how you can make those reductions. So we're still not going to do anything with the first loop, but we're going to work into the second loop and the third loop at the same time. So sort of merging those 2 loops into just 1 loop. So you go behind the vertical line of the first loop, and then you go behind the second loop as well, and then you grab the yarn and you pull it through both of those loops. So those 2 loops has now turned into 1 loop. And then you just continue on as you have done the whole time. You continue working into each loop behind the front vertical line and grabbing the yarn and pulling it through and keeping all the loops on your hook. So I'm gonna just fast forward until I reach the other end, because we're gonna have to do a reduction on the other end as well. So here we are. We have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 loops left. So just go into that one as normal, and then the same with that one, and then we have 2 loops. We have the 1 normal loop and then the end loop. So you go behind the vertical line of that first loop, and then you go behind both of those vertical lines on the end loop, and you pull through all of them. And at this point you should count your loops again. So I had 66, I should be down to 64 by now, and then you do your return pass as you always do. There is no difference. So I did that for 6 sets in total, so that means that we have reduced the work with 12 loops or stitches in total. So we had 36 sets up until the reduction, and then we did 6 sets there, and then now we're going to do 27 more normal sets of the knit stitch. So we're not going to do any more reductions, we're just going to continue doing what we have done the whole time, just working into every single loop, and you're going to do that for 27 sets. So yeah, do those 27 sets and then I will see you back here. So these are my 27 sets done. And as you can see, I have attached 2 stitch markers, and that is sort of marking off the neckline. So you want the space between them to be the size you want for your face, I guess, for your neck. So I attached it to the 17th loop or mask from the edge. So on each side of them you have 16 masks, and then the 17th mask on each side is marked, and then between them we have 22 marks, and that is including the loops that they are attached to. So we're gonna do a row or a set of knit stitch, and you're just gonna start by doing what you always do, going through every single loop, grabbing the yarn and pulling it through, and then leaving all the loops on your hook. And as I mentioned, you want it to be 16 loops on your hook when you reach the stitch marker. We're getting closer, and there we have the last loop before the stitch marker. So if you count them, that's going to be 16 loops, that's what you want. And then you just do your return pass as you always do. So we're not doing any reductions for this pass. So as I mentioned, you want 16 loops on your hook. If you decided to do a bigger size, then that amount is going to be bigger. I think that the most important thing is that the space between, which are 22 masks, for me that should stay the same, or at least stay between like 22 or 24 masks. So just attach the stitch markers wherever you sort of want them to be, depending on your size. So we're doing the second set of knit stitches now, and this is where we're going to start doing reductions. As you could see, I did not do any reductions on the right side. We want that to be straight. But once we get closer to the end here, we're gonna want to do a reduction the same way that we did earlier on. So we already know how to do this. So that is the last normal one, and we have 2 loops left, sorry, 3 loops left. So nope, just 2. So you're going into first one and then behind both lines of the last one, and then you pull through all of them. So at this point you should have 15 loops on your hook, and we're gonna do the return pass as we always do, just going through 2 and 2 loops until you get to the end. Almost there. And until you have 1 loop left on your hook, and then we're gonna do the last set on this side. We're gonna have to do the same on the other side as well. So you do the same, you go into that stitch, no reduction on this side. Whoop. And just keeping the loops on your hook. And when you reach the other side, we're gonna do a reduction again. We are almost there. So we have 2 stitches left. We have this one and then the end loop. So you go through both of them, you pull through the thread under all of them, and now you should be down to 14 loops on your hook if you chose the same sizing as me. And then you do your normal return pass, nothing special or new. You just do that until you get all the way to the other side. And we are getting to that last one. So when you have one loop left on your hook, we're going to do one last thing, and that is that we're going to do a row of slip stitches. So that is almost the same as a single crochet. You go into that first loop, grab the yarn, but you don't grab the yarn afterwards, you just pull through that loop again. So you have one loop on your hook, you go into the stitch, grab the yarn, and then just pull it through the loop you already have on your hook. So at this point, we're not leaving the loops on our hook anymore. We're sort of closing off the work, if that's a good way to explain it. And you're just going to continue doing the slip stitch all the way until the end. The reason I do this is just because I think it looks nicer. It's definitely not necessary to do it. You can skip the slip stitches if you want to. I just think it's a good way to sort of close off the work when you have used Tunisian knit stitching so far. So that is it for that side. We're gonna move on to the other side, which is almost exactly the same, except the reduction is gonna be on the other side from this one. So yeah, just cut your yarn off, pull it through the loop, and make sure it is safe and secure, and we're gonna move on to the other side. So let's get started on the other side. The first thing we need to do is to attach the yarn, and you want to attach it to the one which is next to the stitch marker. So not into the same one, but the one to the left of the stitch marker. And I know people do this a bit differently. This is just the way I like to attach my yarn. If you have a different way to do it, then you should definitely do it the way you like best. I know most people don't actually make a knot, which is what I'm gonna do, but I just like it because I feel like it makes, really ensures that the yarn is connected and isn't gonna, you know, loosen up. So yeah, you just pull it through the loop and then you make a knot. Now, I like to make a double knot, so making it secure. And then you're gonna put your hook into not the one with the stitch marker, but the same one you attach the yarn to. Go into that, you pull the yarn, and that should leave you with one loop on your hook, and then you just continue doing Tunisian knit stitch all the way to the other side. So we're not going to do any reduction for this set. The same as the other side, we're going to reduce for the 2 next sets instead. So when you get to the end, no reductions, as I mentioned. We don't want any reductions on this side, we want that side to be straight anyway, so all the reduction is going to be on the right side. And you should have 16 loops on your hook. And then you just do your return pass as you always do. We are getting closer to the end, and as I mentioned, we want to do a reduction now. And you do that by going into not the first loop, but you go into the second and the third loop behind those front vertical lines, and then you grab the yarn and you pull through both of them, so those two masks are now reduced to one mask. And then you just continue doing the normal knit stitch all the way across. And when you get to the end, you're not going to reduce anything, you're just going to do a normal return pass again. So when you're done with this set, you're gonna want to do one more set of reduction, and that should leave you with 14 loops on your hook. We have 15 now, so that's why we need to do one more set of reduction after this one. And when you have done that, you simply just do the slip stitches exactly the same as we did on the other side, and then you cut your yarn and just make sure that it is safe and secure. So that is it for the front part. And then we're going to move on to the back part after this. So here we have the front piece all done. You can remove the stitch markers now if you want to, and we're going to move on to the back piece, which is going to be almost identical to the front piece. You are going to start out by making the ribbing, and then 30 sets up until the reduction area, then 6 sets of reduction, and then there's a small difference, you're going to do 30 sets. The reason we're going to do that is because we don't want to create like a neckline that goes down, we want a straight line at the top instead. So that's 36 plus 6 plus 30. So I will see you back when you have both those pieces done. So we now have two pieces, the back piece which has a straight line at the top, and then the front piece which has the neckline going a bit down. So the next thing we're going to do is to attach these pieces together. So you do that by, you have the back piece with the front up, and then you take the front piece with the front down. So you have the two fronts up against each other, and then you're gonna attach the pieces on each side. I like to attach my pieces with crocheting. I know some people like to just use a needle and a thread, so you can definitely do that if you want to, but I'm gonna show you how you can attach them using your crochet hook. So you put your hook through the end loop of both pieces, and then you grab your yarn and you pull it through using your hook. It's a bit tight, but yeah, got it through, and then you make a knot. Just make sure to get that other piece of yarn out of the way. You don't want to use that. So yeah, you just attach it using a knot. I like to use a double knot. And then I put my needle into the same loops that I just did when I was attaching the yarn. And then you grab your yarn, make sure you get that other piece of yarn out of the way, and then you go under the yarn, you pull it through the loop, and then you go under the yarn and pull it through the loop. And then you go into the next loop of both the front piece and the back piece. And then you grab the yarn, you pull it through both of those loops, and then you grab the yarn and you pull it through both of those loops. So at this point we're basically doing single crochets all the way across. So you're going through the loops of the front piece and the back piece, and you're grabbing the yarn, pulling it through the loops, grabbing the yarn and pulling it through the loops. And you're just gonna do that all the way across, or until that part where the neckline is supposed to start. So you do that on both sides. Make sure to secure your yarn, and I will see you back when you have attached the two pieces. So I am done attaching my two pieces, and I have turned it the right side out. So this is what it will look like. So the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to do one row of single crochet all around the neckline. So we're going to attach the yarn again. You just pull through the yarn. There we go. And as usual, I just secure it by making a knot. And then you're gonna put your hook into the same space that you used to secure your knot, and you're gonna grab the yarn, drag it through, and then grab the yarn again and pull it through. And then you find the next space, and then grab the yarn, pull it through, grab the yarn and pull it through both of those loops. And that is what you're going to be doing around the entire neckline, all the way until you reach the point where you first started. So I will see you back here when you have finished the row of single crochets. So I am done doing my one row of single crochets all around the neckline. So we're gonna make the actual neck of the sweater now. I didn't want to make it too tall or too high, so what you have to do is that you make a chain, and as I said, I didn't want to make it too tall, so I decided to do 12 stitches. And then the height of the neck is gonna be half of whatever amount of stitches you choose to do. So I did 12, which means the height of the neck is gonna be around 6, like this. So 12 stitches and then adding one more at the end. So that is 13 stitches in total, and you can definitely make it both longer or shorter if you want to. The next thing we're going to do is that we're going to work into all of those stitches in the chain using single crochet stitches. So you go into the loop, you grab the yarn, pull through, grab the yarn and pull through both loops. Go into the stitch, grab the yarn again and pull through both. And you're just going to continue doing this down the whole chain until you reach the end. Should be 12 stitches in total if you chose the same length as I did. Just continue going until you are at the end. So I am almost down my entire chain here. I have a few more single crochet stitches to do. And that is all 12 stitches. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to try to attach this to the neckline. So you go into that first loop, you grab the yarn, pull through, and then you do a slip stitch. Then you're going to do that one more time. So you go into the next stitch, you grab the yarn, you pull through, and then you pull that through the last loop as well. So you did 2 slip stitches, and we're gonna turn the work around. And now we're gonna work back into that chain. So what you need to do is you need to find the first stitch in the chain. If you count, there should be 2 slip stitches, and then the next loop is gonna be the one you want to go into. So for me, that is, it's a bit difficult to see, and I'm a bit out of focus here, but I go into that first stitch in the chain, into the back loop only, and I make a single crochet. And you go into the back loop of the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through both. So again, we're just doing single crochets up the whole chain, but we are gonna only work into the back loop of those chains. So this is exactly what we did for the ribbing down at the waist. The only difference is that we sort of had to attach the ribbing to the neckline using those slip stitches. So when you get to the top, just remember to chain 1, and then you turn your work again, and we're gonna go down the chain again. So you go into that first loop, only the back loop, and you make a single crochet. And you continue doing this down the whole chain, or the whole row. Just remember to always go into the back loop, because we want that ribbed look of the neck as well. So all you have to do now is to do this around the whole neckline. It is a bit tedious. Once you get into it, it becomes a lot easier. You have to keep turning your work, which is a bit, I don't know, I never liked turning my work around. I always feel like it messes up my yarn, and especially here where you have to turn your yarn or your work around quite frequently. But yeah, so just continue doing this around the whole neck until you have no more stitches left in the neckline, and I will see you back then. So my neck is all done. The next thing we want to do is to attach these two together. And I think the easiest way to do that is to just keep the loop on your hook. And then you want to make sure that you are working on the inside of the neck. You don't want the seam to be visible from the front. So you sort of turn it around a bit so you get access to the inside of the neck. And then we're simply gonna crochet these two pieces together using single crochets. So we go into that first loop, the first stitch of both of those pieces. You grab the yarn and then you pull it through, and then you grab the yarn again and you pull it through both. And you just continue doing that all the way down, making single crochets, attaching the two pieces. And when you are done with that, I will see you back here again. Now that we have the neck all done, attached the way it should, we're gonna fold it over because we want the neck to be a bit thicker, which is why we made it twice as long as we wanted it to be. So I think the best way to do this is to flip your whole work inside out like this. And then you fold the neck And then we simply want to attach the neck, making sure that it's not gonna, making sure that it's gonna stay in place. And this is the first time I decided to use a needle instead of using my crochet hook to do so. So you take your needle and you simply just go around the whole neckline, just attaching it. You don't have to be super strict about where you place your stitches. I definitely don't go into every single stitch. I kind of just place them wherever I feel they should be placed. But I think I made maybe a total of 25 stitches or something like that around the whole neckline. You could probably do less. Yeah, I was having some trouble with the yarn here. They were sort of all merging together into one ball, so just be sure that you sort all your yarn out. So yeah, just continue going around the whole neckline, attaching the neck with your yarn. And when that is done, we are gonna start on the ribbing around the arms, or the holes for the arms. So I will see you back here then. Now that the neck is all done, we're gonna move on to the arms, or not the arms. It is a vest, so it doesn't actually have any arms, but we want to make a ribbing which is gonna go around where the arms should go. And do this by turning your work and sort of laying it out like this. And then we want to make the ribbing all the way from the reduction to the other reduction. And we're going to do this the exact same way that we did the ribbing for the neck. So we first need to attach the yarn. So put your hook into that first loop or first stitch of the reduction part, or the part where we were reducing, and you just pull the yarn through, and we're gonna attach it as usual by making a knot or two. And the ribbing we're going to be making now, we're not going to fold over, so whatever amount of stitches you do, that is how large or how long the ribbing will be. So I decided to just do 4 chains or 4 stitches, but then of course adding one more at the end, as we always do, so 5 stitches in total. And again, you can make this both longer and shorter depending on what you like. So that is my 5 stitches. I'm gonna start working into the stitches now with single crochets, and you know this by now, so I'm not gonna use too much time explaining how you do it, but you go down the whole chain just making single crochets. And when we reach that last stitch, we're going to do one more, so that is 4 stitches, and then we're gonna have to attach it. So we're going to go into that first loop and we're gonna make a slip stitch just like we did for the neck. So we're gonna do that 2 times, going into 2 stitches, making slip stitches, and then we have to turn the work around. And again, you're gonna have to turn the work around quite often. I don't know if I'm the only one who find that super boring, but yeah, start working into the chain again. And as you know, we're now only going to work into the back loop. So we're going to work into the back loop of all of those stitches, or 4 stitches. So I think that's 2 more, working into the back loop, and then we have 1 more single crochet working into the last back loop, which can be a bit difficult to get hold of, but. And then at the end we're of course going to chain 1, and then we're going to turn the workaround again. And that is it. You're gonna continue doing this all the way to the other side, or not all the way to the other side, but to the part where we started reducing stitches on the other side. I think you can definitely do this by yourself by now. It is the same as the neck, so I'm gonna let you continue on with your work, and then I will see you back once you have done this ribbing on both sides, so for both arms basically. So now we have both of those ribbings for the arms all done, so the only thing left to do is to sew the two pieces together, or crochet them together as I prefer to do. So turn your work around so it is inside out. And then we're gonna do exactly what we did with the shoulder pieces. We're gonna crochet them together, so you attach the yarn and you pull it through, and then you can just secure it by creating a knot or two. And then we're gonna single crochet down until you reach the ribbing. So you put your hook in, and then you grab the yarn that you just attached and you pull it through, and then you grab the yarn and you pull it through. And you just continue doing single crochets all the way down. And you do the same on the other side as well. And when that is done, the only thing left to do is to take a needle, if you have one, and then you try to attach or sew in all of those loose threads that is all around your vest. So I will see you when you are done with that, and we can take a look at the finished vest together. So here it is, the finished vest. I really hoped you enjoyed the tutorial and that you are happy with the result. So this was my first tutorial, so if you have any feedback to give, I would love to get that, and I will see you in the next tutorial.